Mr. Cash here. Mr. Cash, can you please uh, answer a question?
What do you want to know? Good evening. I stayed out of it up to now.
I want you to be out of it. Good evening, Mr. Cash. The CH3, do we allow to make the CH3 now or still not?
Yes, we said about a year ago you can start playing with CH3.
Okay. Okay, thank you. That's all.
Thank you very much. You got to understand, you explained a lot of things, Jalal. Actually, yeah, we're very close to the knowledge and understanding, but there is a point that you got to, I mean, you're not a physicist, but as a what I call ground level knowledge seeker, you understand the technology very well. From the way you explain it.
You know what I need, Mr. Cash?
What? Half of my brain?
No, my dear friend. No. Come close to you. That's all.
This is something which, what we call, what you were just talking about. You know that the situation now with the nuclear reactor in Ukraine.
Yeah.
And there is a possibility there are 2 more nuclear reactors in Ukraine, which are again powerful. There's a possibility if this carries on, one of these will run into problem. We have already on Friday have declared the position of the Keshe Foundation in respect to any accident in any of the power stations to head of the IAEA, which means we are ready to go in, and we have declared we have enough to contain radiation within the boundaries of the power stations. We carry that much material within the Keshe Foundation. And this partially comes into what you were explaining. As much as you can release, you can absorb. And now we're going back to what we call the situation we had with Fukushima, but in a way of containment. And our clearance has said with the IAEA now that in principle, what you explained in a different way can be used to what you call bring the forces of the nuclear industry, if it goes wrong, under control very rapidly. We carry enough material in a way to be able to contain the radiation and the fields of the plasma which the radiation might release. And we have entered this again with IAEA, not this time with the Americans, but with IAEA, which we know they listen to and they read what we send to them very thoroughly. We know this for a fact, now confirmed in a press conference in Tehran by Dr. Grossi, the head of IAEA, that he has said that they've realized that a lot of things which Israel has provided has been fabrication to create mayhem, and Iran, in a way, now confirmed, has no nuclear weapon technology. This is after we send the materials to IAEA on the 15th of December. And now they have accepted the findings, that were the proof we delivered that confirms what we call the deception used by the Israelis to confirm it, and the evidence we gave was so solid that could not be disputed. So as knowledge seekers, we are reaching there, but we got to understand in more detail the knowledge, the technology. And I said to our Iranian team yesterday, after the speech of Grossi, that we said if that report has done its job, suddenly there is no talk of Iran having a weapon technology or nuclear reactor, what do you call it, weapons. And this is how, when you understand the knowledge and you can explain it to the people who don't, then you open an insight, and this is the way you teach. And this is nice to see. It's not anymore nano coating, it's understanding the concept of what these things do. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr. Cash. But really, do you think it can goes to this point of?
We do not know, because nuclear reactors have certain characteristics, and this power station has been under control and supervision for quite some time. It has, I think, 6 reactors, and one at a time is kept operational. Most of the multiple reactor sites now, by international law, 1 is operational usually, or 2 out of 6, for safety reasons. And at the time of attack, only 1 reactor has been on, and this power station supplies 20% roughly of the energy of the Ukraine. And we have 2 more. If the Russians go for those 2 more, then they control over 50% of the energy into Ukraine and Eastern Europe, because it's planned that it supplies energy into Eastern Bloc. So we'll see. Actually, Ukraine is, I think, is statistically the 2nd, if I'm correct, nuclear nation in Europe from the power generation point of view, after France, which is about 85%. There's a lot of things floating. Our main concern now is how now Russia will play this into the talks in Vienna, because it's critical for our negotiation. If they play, then we have a setback. We hope not, but it looks like it could be coming in that way.
It will affect the talk?
Yes, already affected the talk past 24 hours, what you just said. Because there is the insight into this negotiation is very, very it's very complicated, but it's well designed that all the 5+1 benefit from Iran nuclear technology. And this is what we wanted to, and we got the part of the negotiation from the beginning this way. Iran is not stopped to produce nuclear enriched fuel. We are not. But unknowingly to public, we are allowed to sell it, and we are selling it. And we sell Iran enriched uranium as part of the what we call original 2015. Um, we sell enriched uranium to Russians, or Russians have accepted to buy the enriched uranium of Iran as we enrich for their power stations. And in return, they give us yellow coke that we use again to produce more. Iran makes money on the back of the negotiation. We become a nuclear fuel, sale company in a way, country. But on the agreement, it can only be sold to Russia because it's a landline direct. We go directly to nuclear power stations of US, Russia. And now, with all these financial sanctions, Russians play the game that if we are sanctioned, we cannot trade in anything. We cannot pay Iran for the, the enriched uranium they supply us. And this trade has to stop. And if Iran cannot deliver its enriched uranium with the facilities which have already been built between Iran and Russia, Iran is going to be left with huge amount of enriched uranium that nobody wants Iran to possess. And this creates a bottleneck. So in a way, Iran becomes producer and at the same time a storage to store it. And this is the part which can break up the negotiation. If Russia refuses to buy enriched uranium from Iran. They say if you sanction us for oil and everything else, so uranium, plutonium, and nuclear industry has to be sanctions too, which means we can't trade in it. And it's a very delicate situation, but Biden is in problem with this tool as well if this doesn't go through. And on the back of it, Keshe Foundation will run into problem because we are back to it in a different way. But we'll see. It's a big chance, or maybe it is a key to the whole of Ukraine situation.
I think, Mr. Cash, we need to send them your teaching in the circle of the creation.
This is what it comes, if you come into it, that's from the beginning years ago. What we negotiated in the background with the Americans, 5+1, was very one-sided to the benefit of Iran. We carry on producing plutonium and uranium in different scales, and we're selling it. That's what the whole, they can't stop us. So they found a customer for us, which was Russia. We showed that we can transfer yellow cake into useful fuel, which is what we receive from from the Russians. We are allowed to carry on with our technology. We are allowed to be part of at this moment of the production. And in about 15 years, there is not enough uranium production in the world. Iran will become naturally a supplier. With all the number of reactors are coming into operation, we'll see that come up. So what we negotiated was the best thing for the Iranian nation in this 2015. And now for the first time, we can talk about one of the best part of it, which we are actually a nuclear nation selling, and now allows us to go to the next phase. But we'll see what happens by next Friday. We are expecting that the agreement will complete by Tuesday, Wednesday, because will be announced around about 14, 15, maybe by Tuesday around about 14th, 15th, because it's a very important day in Iran. The last Tuesday night is a night of firework and celebration. And the plan is that there will be announced just about a day, 2 days before that people can celebrate with the firework and everything else. There's well set up design how this thing works. And this can put what they call a French spanner into the work. We'll see by the end of the week. We have to have an agreement by the 14th, completed or 2 days before or by next flight. This is a plan that Iranians will celebrate. We call it Charsh Embassy. It's the last Wednesday, eve of Wednesday in Iran, which they make fireworks and everything else. And they want to bring it to boost the nation up into what we have achieved what we came for, but now we are in the limbo at this moment.
Mr. Keshe, is this energy that's supplied out of Ukraine into Europe or Eastern Europe and Western Europe? I could see this winter is winding down in a way. There's not many weeks left to it, but if these reactors are not prepared or they go offline, would next winter be the real problem situation?
Oh, this will be sorted in by June, July.
Okay.
We hope so. Because if it's not sorted by end of May, April, Ukraine becomes what we call war zone into what we call skirmishes of fighting and into what we call the battlefields of between the Ukrainian outside being poked in by the Americans and the Europeans, given tools to defend themselves. We'll have what you call it guerrilla warfare. And Russia doesn't want to get into that. And you heard what the Russian foreign minister said today was very clear that if any European nation, because the American asked the Europeans to give aircrafts to the Ukrainians, or they have given it to the Poland, and the Poland automatically denied it, that they don't need any aircraft or whatever. And the Russia said if any European nation gives an aircraft to another country to be used against, or to the Ukrainian to be used against Russians, that nation is considered to have entered war. And nobody wants to play with Russia. So they're going to finish their job, whatever they came into the by June, July, they move it. Well, it's accommodating this huge number of refugees which are coming out of Ukraine into first line Western European countries, and behind it, the other European nations to accept how many thousands.
There's so many stories coming out of the news, we don't quite understand which one is the correct story, whether these plants were sabotaged purposely. The Ukrainians,
what they bombed is an old reactor, an old building of a reactor management building. They didn't bomb a reactor. They don't even touch the control room. There's a management building of the reactor has been done, and that was deliberately to bring you scared that they can go into the reactor directly.
it's rather dicey, as they say.
Well calculated. We expect to see the next two reactors near the borders in the far west to be taken over in the next 2 to 3 weeks. The plans looks that way. The Russian military forces will just drive to that target. We got to realize it's a beautiful if you notice it, it's not an occupation. Nowhere, Russia, even in the city where the nuclear reactor is taken, other ports, have risen the Russian flag to be a war, to be occupation. They're still allowing Ukrainian flag to fly. Militarily, diplomatically, politically, does not create a condition of war. If they move in and change flags into the Russian flags, then we are in a war state. In the cities they've taken, in the towns they've taken, they still leave the same mayors in office. They don't change the flag. It's not an occupation, it's not a war.
And aren't they purposely not trying to destroy the infrastructure, the power system, the water system, the sewer system, and so on? Russia's
These
trying
are
to be,
part of the control. You'll get that eventually in every position. You got to understand, if Russia wouldn't take him, maybe we lose 10,000 people in this situation in Ukraine. If it would not gone this way, we would have looked at least 100 to 200,000 deaths in USSR and other parts of the Russia, and into right to the back of the Chinese border in Western provinces. The plan is huge. It wasn't there. Vatican got beaten up in China. Now they're going through to get to Russian church and then to Kazakhstan, getting to create more mayhem in the western front of the China-Russian border.
yes, it just seems the wrong, they have that game, pin the tail on the donkey, but it seems they're pinning the tail on the wrong fella here. In so many ways, as you've explained it, he was defending or bringing back his daughter, so to speak, into the fold, that the daughter wouldn't get
It
abused.
is a very, nobody will move. Russia will complete this process. And we have casualties, definitely. It's going to be, it runs into thousands now, these casualties. And as long as this young chap stays in Ukraine as a president, they see him as a Westerner. This is a guy who allowed the Western nations to come in and everything else too. If we go back a few weeks ago, I told you he'll go to Siberia. If they get their hands on him, he spends the rest of his life in Siberian, northern Siberian prisons. And then they will negotiate for his freedom, also begin the American passport, and he'll go to America, and you won't hear from him anymore.
Yeah, it's not been explained, the religious aspect of one church trying to take over another one. That's not been mentioned anywhere by anyone except yourself that I've
No.
read.
No, nobody will ever tell you that.
Mm.
Vatican never enters war in any front, but it finances all the wars. Done that for centuries.
Well, we're going to close with that last clip of the Pope leaving or entering the Russian embassy. And what you've explained to us about this, about finance. And it's not so much about religion, but it's about the wealth of one church wanting to take from the other.
It's a money game. By the way, some of your explanation were not near, but on the right track about carbon-14.
Myself?
Are you talking to me?
I don't know. I don't know. I just listen. I'm not going to say anything. And what do you call it? Carbon-14. There's a piece all of you missing, and it's amazing how you're missing. But you talk about it in another parts, but you don't understand what you're missing. And when you talk, you don't connect. You don't make a connection.
I'm trying to extract some of the knowledge from one of the papers, the gift you've given to stop the killing on this planet. And it seems like we need to use those amino acids from the CH3 to combine with our amino acids so they stay fully charged rather than depleting and recharging them with the matter state. And you said the iron is a constant, it doesn't need to be recharged. So if you can get those amino acids out of the CH3 and introduce them in a certain way, you can keep your own amino acids from being depleted. Is that a misunderstanding or somewhat close to the understanding you were trying to convey?
Maybe.
Okay.
You got to understand a little bit deeper the whole concept of life in space is an integrated system. But strange enough, volume knowledge appear separated, pigeonholed.
But you keep saying the stronger feeds the weaker. Is that only in space or here in the matter
Here
state as
too.
well?
In the matter state too.
Right, but why are you making us, well, I guess maybe we're not working so hard to understand it, but is it such a secret that we're not ready to understand it? Is this one of the reasons?
No, it's just that you're not educated.
I knew I should have went to
Maybe,
college.
No, I don't mean in going to school. You're not educated in connecting the knowledge of plasma.
maybe CO2 and
agree.
CH3 combination,
Pardon?
CO2 and CH3 combination, both of them together.
We can do
Mixing.
it.
I did like 80% CO2 and 20% CH3, and it helped me.
With
I
what?
did. My vision came after that. I took like a month the water of those, and then I had a little coughing. So I thought maybe I did something wrong. And again, I threw the games in the sink. And then 5 days later, my vision came. After that, I can see a lot of stuff. So I know that gas helped me something, did to something. There is something.
There's a lot of things. The whole creation is in the cats.
Yeah, we
But you
don't
got
need,
how to untap the secret.
yes. Very simple, but we don't do different way. Thanks to you.
Yes, thank you for all you've shared. Yes.
Yeah, but the thing is, we share so much knowledge, but you got to be wise, or you got to put a lot of things together to see it, to connect it. And now we start locking up into the world scientists. As you will see in the coming weeks, Keshe Foundation will concentrate on bringing world scientists into the foundation. We don't expect them to accept the technology. We don't expect them to understand it. We teach them to use their knowledge to fulfill our, what we call, target. We start heavy recruitment of the world scientists about 2 weeks ago. And you will see massive number of scientists, world-class scientists will be working somewhere in a background through or with or in conjunction with the Keshe Foundation. That they can bring, they have the knowledge, they can see the new knowledge and see how we see them connecting together.
Does this mean that the contracts have been initialed? I know you said it would be the largest, the Keshe Foundation would be one of the largest scientific organizations, but you were waiting until certain agreements or contracts were signed, initialed, and so on. Does that mean, I think you've done the Romanian manufacturing last week. You said you were going to be.
Yes, we have signed a first phase of the Romanian factory. We
Okay,
have to
phases.
see how the rest will come in. It's a massive structure, and the same is we will bring out in next week, 2 weeks, new products never seen in public.
That's what I was referring to, this conglomeration or this amalgamation of a company or
Will
companies.
become the center point for scientists to come to share.
You said products we've never imagined or seen before?
Yep. Our agreement should be completed by sometime this week, and then we will launch products. Very much different than household goods and that kind of thing. We go into the industrial level. Once we complete signing this agreement in next coming days, then we will be in the next level for that.
So they seem to be very ready to go. Who's dragging the feet on this? Or is it just little?
No, it's just crossing the T's and putting the dots on the I's. Nobody's holding back. It's a huge movement of scientists.
And they're going to surpass the work of the knowledge seekers, more or less, more than less, huh?
They are already knowledge seekers themselves. Most of these scientists been using our technology or nanotechnology. Now they're joining as a forces, national forces with the Keshe Foundation. It's not that they are not, they already are, but they know they need to complete it. So we have brought the whole structure into Keshe Foundation. It's a huge number of them.
So, Mr. Keshe,
Oh, go
sorry,
ahead.
Mark, for 2 weeks you are asking about 12 and 14, and now when Mr. Keshe now want us to enter a little bit, you bring another topics. Okay.
Are there?
No, sorry, not with you, Mr. Keshe. So, Mr. Keshe, can you bring us a little bit closer?
What?
Can you bring us a little bit closer? What?
Where? Austria is the closest we can get to.
He said, we've been talking about the C-14 for a couple of weeks now, and now I introduce another subject. And
No, it's just that you have to. You got to go back into layers of teaching and deciphering. I have hidden the technology in a very, very open way. It's under your nose so bad that you can't even see it, even though you smell it.
You know, that's why I have a cold. That's why
it's like the cat looking for the food. He can smell it, but he can't find it.
No, it's just like putting the food under your nose. It's so close that your eyes can't see, but you can smell it. So what is it?
Can I say something about
Yeah.
that? We made CO2 and we made CH3. I don't know, maybe something building up in our body. Maybe CO2 holding us in our body, and it is capturing something else. So little by little, we are changing. I don't know. It is my feelings. And someday we'll see we are changed.
Okay, so it's right under our noses, but our eyes can't see it. We can smell it. Very good. You've always said you were a master magician or a master of disguise, both actually. And I think once we do discover it, that point will be brought home even harder. Anyone else, while Mr. Keshe is here with us, would like to ask a question? I know it's approaching. It's actually a couple minutes after midnight in Europe. Alex, is there anything else you'd like to say or bring? I know you did quite a job today.
I want to say
Yes.
thank you,
Elena.
Mr. Keshe. Only thank you.
Yes, and it pleases the universal community that we're here listening as well and trying to learn this knowledge and absorb some of this knowledge. So it's very delightful for the universal community to see that there are people here that are willing to listen and try and do some work in the lab and so on and so forth to discover or what we don't know or improve what we think we do know. But I've always said that I understand, and I think the more you know, the more you should realize, or we should realize, how much little we do know. That's normally, I think, the way it works. When you don't know anything, you think you know everything. And when you know a little bit, you realize how much more out there is to know, even in different dimensions and different understandings. One of the questions I wanted to ask you, Mr. Keshe, is even though there are other entities in the universe that are in different dimensions, I feel we're still all connected through the center or through the soul or the energy of each of those individuals. Is that correct? It would seem really a no-brainer that the whole system is connected together. But even though they've never manifested in the matter state, we're still connected with them?
Of course. Man is not unique and man is not alone. You see, it's the same as what they call You say you're Chinese, or you're American, or you're Bulgarian, or whatever. And then you say, we are humans. If you are humans and we are all connected to each other as human, so it doesn't matter what you are, Bulgarian, Russian, whatever, you have one common denominator, creator, which is whoever came, where they came, which way they came. They started and one family became two, and two became three, and three moved on. Many times when I travel around the world, I think, can you imagine what happened? How did the villages created? How little villages are created? How people come to create these conditions and these homes, and where did they start? We didn't grow out of nowhere from underground. A mother gave birth to 2 or 3 children, and they met a woman down the village, the next village, and they got married, and they couldn't be between. They went further up, and then they created the next village for the children. The children went further up, and this is how cities expanded to be created from one point to another. And if you look at it, where did the first cycle of man came from? Which village in the universe? That we moved up to this village. Are we the creation of this planet, or are we replication of another cycle of life? There are different angles to look at it. You put an orange and you get orange juice with all the flavor of it, but none of you has managed to get from that orange flavor an orange yet. You will stop the minute you taste the orange. How many of you have ever thought, can I create an orange from this water? And how many of you can think that, yes, I can? I can. I'm sure a few people in the Keshe Foundation can. We brought the taste from the orange in the water, every attributes of it, the energy, the taste, the emotion, which creates it in us. So we should have the knowledge to create that orange again. And if you understand this, is there another life in the space that within the salt waters of this planet has come to become life? And that life has become human or any other creature, or have our bodies through the storms or whatever, or through the soul of the man or a dog or whatever, if he finds another dimension, another place which has the right mixture of what they call salinity, would the dog on this planet become that orange, and the water in that planet becomes the source of replication of life? We haven't broken into a lot of knowledge which is unknown to man.
Mr. Kesh, can I have a permission to say my dream? I had a dream. I told in Bangla teaching. I wanted to say to you.
Carry
Can I
on.
say? Okay.
Yes, we're all knowledge seekers here. We just learn from each other.
Okay. Like few months ago, I saw a dream. Like I have a one-story house nearby the creek. Some noise in there.
Go ahead, go right ahead. Sorry about that, Selena.
It's okay. So, the house was like unfinished. Little work is needed. So I brought some Mexican people to fix the house. So they fixed house, and then after the fixing, they gone. And then I feel in my one of my room there is a noise. So I went there, and then I saw one little girl is there. So I thought maybe Mexican those workers they brought their children with them. Maybe they forgot to take her. So I told her, "Where is your father? Did you forget to go with them?" And she didn't answer me, just looking at me. So I told her, give me your father phone number, so I will call him, and then he will come back and take you home. So that girl took a paper, and then she write phone number, but she writes some number and then some alphabet in there. So I saw the number and then say, oh my God, this is strange, it's not a real number. So I told her, oh, stay you here, and then tomorrow they will come back to finish all work, and then you will go with your father. And then the girl didn't say anything, just went to the room. And then after that, I opened the back door, and then I saw from the creek, there is people growing from the creek. They didn't finish their body. Some of the upper body is the finished one, but the leg and some of our arm is like a thin, a thin balloon. It's not properly done yet, but they're growing their body in the creek and then coming to my backyard. so I closed that door and ran away. Came to the in my house inside. So after that, I thought, oh my God, that girl came from the creek too, because she's so smart. She when I told her to give your father's phone number, she gave it to me the number, but she don't know the number should be number, not alphabet too. So I don't know. After you talking about that creation, so I remember that dream. That's why I want to tell you. I saw those kinds of dreams. It is funny, but I want to tell you. That's why I told you. That's it.
Quite vivid. Thank you, Selena, for sharing with us.
Thank you all for listening.
Okay, Mr. Kesh, is there anything else you'd like to share or with us before we play the last part and the final disclaimer? Thank you.
Not really. I came here as a knowledge seeker. And Jalal asked the question. We try to share knowledge.
Yes.
We're still in the same boat, same condition, and we'll see.
It stuck with me when you said this, the soul of the creator is even more humble than the soul of a fish. I mean, how humble can the creator be? with no name and no place. Is this the creator?
So many ways. Yep. It's in the center of every living cell. Now you can imagine how big an orange is.
Yes, we do. Thank you.
Mr. Keshe, here is Andreas. How is the loading of the units in Linz?
Is for us to know.
It's beautiful.
We don't release any information at those levels.
Please?
We don't release any information on our working level.
It's beautiful to be there. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Mr. Keshe. I will continue with this series to the best of my ability. I look forward to seeing everyone here next week also. I want to thank you and all the knowledge seekers for allowing me to make these presentations, and I hope you're all enjoying the journey. It is quite the journey. So thank you all.
Sure is. We have a lot of puzzle pieces, but now it's putting the puzzle pieces together. So we're going step by step, and obviously we're being taught by a master. That's beautiful. As I've often said, you're the best teacher I've ever experienced. But that's just the way I see it. So thank you for being here, Mr. Keshe, and Alex, Jalal.
Can I make a question?
Oh, yes, Stefania, thank you.
Very briefly, Mr. Keshe, to create the orange from when you replicate the test of the orange, then the next step will be contain the fields that we created of the test of the orange until these fields, they build up and they become tangible. Is how materialize the orange?
I don't understand what you mean.
It's like you said, no one of us managed to materialize the orange. Some of us managed to create the feelings of the test of the orange, or the feelings of the orange. So the next step, so the first step is replicate the test of the orange, and once you replicate the test of the orange, then the next step is to contain those fields, create the core, the gravitational core, and then the magnetic core around it. Sorry. So if you contain them, maybe you kind of grow them, like if you hold in the thoughts, and by holding this thought, maybe this is some assumption, but you if you can hold the thoughts, so you creating the feelings of the orange, test of the orange, then if you can hold that, maybe that means when you say 0 time, so you hold in, and until you then the fields can be stay contained, and then you create, then I don't know, creating inner core. I don't know how to say it, but that will be the next step to materialize the orange. This is just a question.
You got to be able to replicate every facet of the orange. Its physicality, its taste, its emotion, its times, its presence.
And the seeds too?
Everything.
It's like so it's like when you once you said about you know, when you said once you said when you think about your loved ones and you have to have everything, really try to get everything, like if they're there, something like that. So you said this like has to be everything, like the RNA has to be the totality of everything. So we have to kind of practice that to materialize.
To be able to materialize, you have to have both RNA and DNA. You have to have the disk and the information and the machine to make the disk work and release the information.
Mr. Keshe, I remember some years ago, somebody mentioned they had replicated alcohol, some booze, and they drank the water and they got drunk.
That's Alex. Alex Nigeria did that.
Uh-huh.
That was one of the first times people start listening and doing it. But he created the feeling of the drunkenness through the emotion of wanting to get drunk at night.